years ago, conservatives across the country were completely convinced that then President Obama was secretly preparing to impose martial law. It was a wild and crazy conspiracy theory. And that belief was prompted by the fact that 10 years ago today, the U.S. military was a few weeks into a military exercise called Jade Helm. Now, what Jade Helm actually was a pretty standard 8-week military training exercise that happened to take place across Texas, New Mexico, California, and other southwestern states. But because Barack Obama was president, conspiracy theorists seized on the fact that the military was going to be in Texas, again, doing these exercises, as proof that a hostile takeover was planned, that this was all about a hostile takeover. Now, rather than calm that completely unfounded conspiracy, conservatives fanned the flames. Republican Senator Ted Cruz said he understood the reason for concern because, quote, the federal government has not demonstrated itself to be trustworthy in this administration. He was, of course, talking about the Obama administration. Other Republicans insisted that the map of the fictitious exercise be changed so that Texas wasn't labeled as hostile. Again, this was just a military training exercise, something that is quite standard, that all the branches of our military participate in. But Texas's governor at the time, who, believe it or not, was still Greg Abbott, man, that guy's been around doing damage for a long time, ordered the state guard to go monitor the exercise, using taxpayer dollars to send troops to watch the training exercise. That is how hair on fire Republicans were just a decade ago, about the unfounded, very remote, not even real possibility that the president of the United States might be calling the military into American cities. Now fast forward to today. Check out how Republicans are responding to Trump actually sending troops into an American city.
What's happening in D.C., this is easy. President Trump is showing bold and strong leadership.
Hopefully, this is a harbinger of what we see in these liberally run cities across the country. We need to send in the troops, which is exactly what we're doing.
We're going to support this. We're going to support doing this in other cities if it works out in Washington, D.C. I think that this is an experiment that's probably needed in a lot of the Democrat-run cities in America.
Do they even have a belief system? I ask myself often. I mean, Republicans aren't just okay with Trump using the military these days to take over the nation's capital, a city, by the way, where they all spend a fair amount of time as members of Congress, of course. They want this experiment repeated in cities run by Democrats all over the country. That's the whole plan. That's the goal. Meanwhile, the actual residents of the city Trump is trying to take over are definitely not aligned with that viewpoint, and they are pushing back. This was the scene at the intersection of 14th Street and W Street in Washington, D.C. last night. So to give you a sense, this is a neighborhood full of restaurants and bars, and lots of people live there. Bystanders chanted things like, "Get off our streets," "Go home fascists," and "Read the Constitution," at a bizarre mix of federal law enforcement officers and local police who are now under Trump's control. Those officers had set up a checkpoint where for about 2 hours last night, they stopped dozens of cars and detained at least 2 people. Federal agents reportedly stopping cars for things as minor as seatbelt violations and broken taillights. Not sure that's really cracking down on crime. And then asking drivers, of course, about their immigration status, which is probably likely what this is all about. Now, some bystanders reportedly ran into a CVS to quickly make signs, warning others that ICE was ahead and directing drivers to turn left to avoid the checkpoint. You can see one of the signs there they're holding. A group of passengers in a rideshare vehicle rolled down their windows and shouted to the crowd, letting them know the questions law enforcement was asking their driver so that the crowd could then warn others who were coming behind them. Someone else blared Vanilla Ice's classic song, Ice Ice Baby, A+ points for creativity from the sidewalk, while others shouted advice at drivers, encouraging them to ask for badge numbers or remain silent. That was D.C. last night. The people of D.C., which doesn't surprise me, I've lived here a long time, pushing back in practical ways against what Trump is trying to do to the city. All the way on the other side of the country, we also saw something similar. Today was the first day of school for the more than 500,000 children in the LA Unified School District. And in addition to worrying about first day outfits, believe me, that's a thing. I have 2 elementary school kids, it's a thing. And school supplies, students and parents across the city were anxious about something much bigger because of our federal government. As the LA Times headlined it today, fears of immigration raids cloud LAUSD's first day. But just like the people of D.C., the people of Los Angeles are pushing back. This is Ron Gochez, a high school history teacher at Maya Angelou High School. He had to teach today, but he got up hours before school started to patrol the streets around his school looking for federal agents. And Gochez is part of an organized group of faculty and volunteers, like some of the people you see here, that plan to patrol all across the city before and after school every day to warn students and parents if and when ICE shows up. The group says they hope to have at least 5 to 7 volunteers per school every single day. And the school district itself is tasking police and officers from several municipal forces with patrolling near 100 schools to set up what the district is calling safe zones around schools in heavily Latino neighborhoods. At a press conference announcing these protections earlier this week, LA Mayor Karen Bass described the situation this way. Here's what she said, quote, "Here you have an entire array of elected officials, appointed officials, education leaders, people committed to our children. And we are gathered here today to talk about protecting our children from the federal government." Think about that, protecting our children from the federal government. These are the lengths that Americans are having to go to protect their communities from the federal government, who's supposed to be protecting them from the Trump administration. And as bleak as it is that drastic measures like these are needed, it is also inspiring to see that people aren't just going to take Trump's power grab sitting down. They are pushing back and pushing back forcefully.
2 months ago to the day, June 14th, at what may have been the largest mass protest in American history, millions of Americans turned out at No Kings rallies across the country. From big blue cities to small, deep red towns, all of them united with a shared message for the president. We won't bend the knee. Despite the turnout, Donald Trump has only expanded his executive powers and flexed with this federal takeover of Washington, D.C. this week. But the Americans who oppose him aren't letting up either. Ezra Levin is the co-founder and co-executive director of Indivisible, which helped organize the No Kings Day protests, and is now holding another national day of action this Saturday called Fight the Trump Takeover in 250 locations across the country. He joins me now. So, Ezra, good to see you. As we get closer to Saturday's protests, what are some of your expectations? What are you preparing for, and what do you want people to take from it?
Look, my expectation is that courage is contagious, and we've seen a lot of courage out there. The Texas reps who left Texas, broke quorum, and defied both Donald Trump and the ruling GOP party in the state to stop the gerrymander in the state. That took guts. That was courage. And the question is, how do you make that contagious? It can't all be on the Texas reps. We've got to do our part. Saturday is the part where we make it contagious. Saturday is the part where we show up and show the Texas reps they're not alone. They're not alone in this fight against Trump. So if folks are on the sidelines looking at what Trump is doing in Texas, what he's doing in D.C., what he's done to L.A., what he's threatening to do to Missouri and Indiana and Florida, and they're asking, gosh, what can I do? Here's something you can do. You can show the Texas reps who are on the front lines they're not alone. You can show Donald Trump that he doesn't have all the cards, and you can show up and push your own state legislators, especially you all in blue states like a California and Illinois, a Washington and New Mexico. Show them that you want them to fight back. That's what you can do right now.
Are you prepared for the potential attendance, the size, the energy and anger that may be there?
Alright, stop the tape. Did you just catch that? 10 years ago, Republicans were screaming that Barack Obama was secretly plotting to impose marital law. Why? Because the military was running a training exercise in Texas. No raids, no arrests, no checkpoints, just soldier practicing. And yet right-wing media called it hostile takeover. Ted Cruz fed the conspiracy Greg Abbott, yes, still governor, out of the Texas state, got to monitor our own troops. Fast forward to now, and those same Republicans are cheering as Donald Trump literally sends actual troops into an American city, not a drill, not a training, puts real guns, real checkpoints, and instead of calling it tyranny, they are calling it bold leadership. This is not a double standard, this is mask sleeping. Fox News hosts are not just fine with Trump taking over Washington D.C. They are begging for him to do it in every Democrat-led city. That's not law and order. That's an authoritarian wish list. And here's the part they don't want you to see. DC residents are fighting back. Last night in busy 14th and W Street neighborhood, federal officers set up an unannounced checkpoint. They stopped cars for things like seatbelt violations, then turned it into an immigration status fishing expedition. This is not crime prevention, this is intimidation. But DC was not having it. People grabbed postal board from GPS, made eyes ahead, warning signs, and directed drivers to avoid the checkpoint. Rideshare passengers leaned out windows, yelling exactly what questions officers were asking to so the crowd could spread the word. Someone even blasted the ice ice baby from the sidewalk as not as subtle warning officers told drivers to demand base numbers and stay silent. That's why real community defense look like. And it's not just DC. On the other side of the country, Los Angeles is seeing the same playbook. First day of school in La unfed, over 500,000 kids here to class. Should be about lunch boxes and new shoes. Instead, families are terrified eyes might be outside their child's school. Think about that. In America, parents have to worry the federal government will target them while dropping off their kids. Sola fought back. Teachers like Ron Ghosh got up before dawn to patrol school neighborhoods for federal agents. They are part of a network. 5 to 7 volunteers at every school, every day, ready to warn parents in real time. Their city even set up official safe zones at 100 schools in heavily Latino neighborhoods. And La Mayor Karen Bass said it best. We are here to protect our children from the federal government. Let's just sink it. Official protecting kids from the government that's supposed to protect them. This is what happens when the presidency turns into weapon, and the hypocrisy beyond obvious. When Obama was in office, even the rumor of military activity had Republicans in full meltdown mode. Now Trump is openly deploying troops into American states and they're celebrating it. But here's the lesson. These taxes only work if people let them. Authoritarians need fear and silence. They need you to expect checkpoints as normal. They need you to think raids near schools are just how it is. And DC and law just showed us the blueprint for stopping it. Share information, warn each other, document everything, push back in real time. Because once you normalize soldiers in the streets and raids on your neighbors, you don't get the freedom back. So the question is, do we want to live in a country where political leaders use the military to target their opponents' cities? If your answer is no, then you are already on the side of the people in DC holding those signs. You are with parents-in-law walking their kids through safe zones. They are telling us exactly what the movement is, a test, and only wrong move is doing nothing. Don't stay silent. Subscribe now and stay informed because if we don't pay attention, freedom loses.